The Battle of Germantown, fought on October 4, 1777, was a significant engagement during the American Revolutionary War. It took place near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the town of Germantown, which is now part of Philadelphia. The battle was part of a larger campaign for control of Philadelphia, the capital of the United States at the time, and was a key moment in the War for Independence. Background and causes. British occupation of Philadelphia. In September 1777, the British Army, led by General William Howe, captured Philadelphia after a series of engagements, including the Battle of Brandywine and the Battle of the Clouds. This gave the British control of the American capital and forced the Continental Congress to flee to York, Pennsylvania. The British occupation of Philadelphia was seen as a major blow to the American cause. Washington's desire to regain control. General George Washington, commander of the Continental Army, wanted to challenge British control of Philadelphia and regain momentum for the American cause. Although his forces had suffered setbacks, Washington hoped that a surprise attack on the British forces might force them to retreat or at least damage their hold on the city. Washington's army camped in the countryside near Philadelphia, hoping for an opportunity to strike. The British defense of Philadelphia. General Howe's army was spread out in and around Philadelphia, with its primary forces positioned at Germantown, a village just north of the city. The British forces were dispersed in various fortified positions, and they were relatively vulnerable to an attack. However, they were well supplied and had the support of British naval forces controlling the Delaware River. American plan to attack. Washington, seeking a decisive victory, developed a plan to launch a coordinated surprise attack on the British troops at Germantown. The American forces, under Washington's leadership, assembled a force of about 11,000 men to carry out the attack. The plan was for several columns of Continental soldiers to strike different parts of the British defenses simultaneously. The battle. The American attack. On the morning of October 4, 1777, the Americans began their assault on the British lines at Germantown. The Continental Army divided into 4 main columns, each tasked with attacking a different British position. The assault was launched in a dense fog, which was intended to provide cover for the American forces. Initial success. The American attack initially met with success. The Americans were able to drive back the British defenders at several points, including at the British-held Shoe House, a stronghold in Germantown. However, as the fog lifted and confusion set in, communication between American forces broke down. Breakdown of coordination. The American troops were disoriented, and some units mistook other American troops for the enemy. This confusion led to friendly fire incidents and a loss of momentum. A key moment came when a portion of the American forces became bogged down at the Shoe House, allowing British reinforcements to arrive and stabilize their position. British reinforcements and counterattack. At the same time, British reinforcements under General Sir Henry Clinton arrived from Philadelphia, bolstering the British defense. The American troops, unable to coordinate effectively and under heavy British fire, began to retreat. Withdrawal. By late afternoon, Washington realized that the attack had failed. The Americans began to retreat in disarray, with the British forces pursuing them. The British were able to hold onto Germantown and, by extension, maintain control of Philadelphia. Aftermath and significance. Casualties. The Battle of Germantown was costly for both sides. The Continental Army suffered about 1,000 casualties, including killed, wounded, and captured. The British losses were around 500 casualties. The heavy losses were particularly painful for the Continental Army, which had hoped for a decisive victory. Psychological impact. Although the battle was a tactical defeat for the Americans, it had important psychological and strategic implications. The fact that Washington's troops were able to conduct a coordinated attack on the British and force them to retreat at certain points demonstrated that the American forces were capable of mounting serious challenges to the British Army. It also showed that the Continental Army was improving in terms of organization, discipline, and combat effectiveness. The impact on British strategy. For the British, the victory at Germantown was not as significant as it might have seemed. The British were unable to capitalize on their success to decisively crush the Continental Army or to end the rebellion. The capture of Philadelphia. While a symbolic victory, did not break the will of the American people or their army. The British forces were still tied down in a hostile and difficult environment, with French support for the American cause growing. French assistance. A few months after the Battle of Germantown, the French government formally entered the war in support of the Americans following the American victory at Saratoga. This marked a turning point in the war, as the Americans gained crucial French military and financial support. The Battle of Germantown, despite being a loss, contributed to the Americans' growing confidence and eventual success in the Revolutionary War. Conclusion. The Battle of Germantown was a failed attempt by General Washington to recapture Philadelphia from the British. While the battle itself was a tactical defeat for the Continental Army, it demonstrated the growing capabilities of the American forces. The Americans were able to challenge the British in a well-coordinated attack, and although they were ultimately forced to retreat, the battle helped to inspire confidence and bolster the morale of the American revolutionaries. The battle also highlighted the difficulties faced by the British in maintaining control of Philadelphia, which would be further exacerbated by the arrival of French support in 1778.